and Novak.
This is VOA News. Via remote, I'm Marissa Melton. At Philadelphia's Independence Hall tonight, U.S. President Joe Biden will talk about the ongoing fight for the soul of the nation, in his words, and its threats to democracy. AP Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani has the story.
The president is aiming squarely at Trumpism, saying the former president's backers and those pushing his Make America Great Again philosophy are simply dangerous.
They're a threat to our very democracy.
Last week, he compared the philosophy to semi-fascism. In a primetime speech tonight in Philadelphia, he'll frame November's midterm elections as part of the continuing fight for the soul of the nation. Allies stress the president's not rejecting the entire GOP, and that he'll invite traditional Republicans to join him in condemning Trump and his followers. But more than 74 million people voted for Trump in 2020, and House GOP leader Kevin McCarthy tells Fox News the president's trying to disparage hardworking Americans. Sagar Meghani at the White House.
Human Rights Watch has issued a new report on Thursday documenting the forcible transfer of Ukrainian citizens to Russia and Russian-occupied areas of Ukraine. The rights group says such actions are war crimes and potential crimes against humanity. The 71-page report said Russian and Russian-affiliated authorities subjected thousands of Ukrainians to a form of compulsory, punitive, and abusive security screening called filtration. A representative for Human Rights Watch told VOA that the people interviewed for the report were Ukrainians who had been forcibly transferred to Russia but who had later made it out into the European Union or to Georgia. This is VOA News. China has denounced a long-delayed UN human rights report that was released over its protest. AP correspondent Charles de Ledesma has that story.
The document says the government's arbitrary detention of Uyghurs and other mostly Muslim ethnic groups in the western region of Xinjiang may constitute crimes against humanity. Now, in a sternly worded protest, the UN posted with its report, China's diplomatic mission in Geneva says it firmly opposes the release of the UN assessment. Human rights groups and the Japanese government have welcomed the report, which has become caught up in a tug-of-war between China and others who were critical of the delay and lobbying for its release. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
Officials in the U.S. state of Mississippi have set up emergency distribution centers for handouts of water and hand sanitizer Thursday in the capital city of Jackson as efforts to restore a flood-impaired, long-troubled water system continue. Jackson's residents were already under a boil water order before flooding from the Pearl River exacerbated long-standing problems at one of the city's 2 water treatment plants. Officials said they'd made progress overnight in refilling tanks, treating water, and increasing pressure at the city's water plant. Residents closer to the facility had pressure approaching normal levels, the city said in a news release, but it added that many in the city still had too little or no water pressure at all. The Kremlin says Russian President Vladimir Putin will not be able to attend the funeral service of Mikhail Gorbachev on September 3rd because of Mr. Putin's work schedule. Gorbachev was the last leader of the Soviet Union before it dissolved in 1991. He died earlier this week at age 91 after a prolonged illness. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov told reporters in Moscow Thursday that Gorbachev will not be honored with a full state funeral. He added that Putin had stopped by the Central Clinical Hospital earlier Thursday to pay his respects. Putin had a strained relationship with Gorbachev. He has called the collapse of the Soviet Union, quote, the greatest geopolitical catastrophe of the century, referring there to the 20th century. Gorbachev's daughter had said her father's funeral will be held on the 3rd of September. FBI cyber experts from the United States are heading to Montenegro to investigate a massive and coordinated attack on the tiny Balkan nation's government and its services. Last weekend, Montenegro's Agency for National Security said the country was under a hybrid war at the moment, blaming the attacks squarely on Russia, however, without providing evidence. And once again, President Biden is expected to begin a speech in about an hour coming from Philadelphia. This is VOA News.